Hey guys, Tanna here with another Digimon ReArise video. Today, we take many steps back because I have a couple of requests from players to make these basic guides, even though the game has already been out for like 5 months. But if it's gonna help you new players, then I thought, why not? I could give this a try, so here we are. Okay, so this is mostly for players who have just started playing, or even for players who have not started and considering playing. Today's video is all about plugins, which is actually pretty important since it strengthens your Digimon. Okay, so what are plugins? Let's head into the plugins page and go into equip plugins. This is where we usually manage our plugins. So plugins are basically things you can equip on your Digimon to make them stronger. Okay, so for example, all fours here, I don't really have everything, but okay, so think of them as equipment or gears in gacha games. Okay, so there are basically 3 types of plugins that your Digimon can equip: offensive, defensive, and special. Offensive, which is at number 1, 4, and then defensive 2 and 5, and then the special plugins 3 and 6, which is locked right now, but I will talk about that later. Okay, so they all have 2 slots each per Digimon, so a total of 6 plugins. Offensive plugins are split into power and tech type. So for example, my Alphos is using tech type, and then is he using power? Yeah, okay, so Machine Dramon is using power type, so they are actually different. So a tech type Digimon can only equip tech type offensive plugins, and then a power type Digimon can only equip power type offensive plugins. So offensive plugins, as the name suggests, increases the offensive capability of your Digimon and thus dealing more damage. Each plugin also have some substats, which in fact is a must to consider when using plugins. Secondary offensive stats we usually use are speed or critical rate. So these are the 2 types that we usually use. So you will usually equip an offensive plugin like tech speed, power speed, or tech crit, and power crit. Okay, some target plugin actually includes HP as secondary offensive stats. I don't think I have it here. Okay, so as I mentioned, some target plugin actually includes HP as a secondary offensive stats, which is the one right here by Philmon, power 300 and then HP 500. Or Harrismon, which is essentially the same thing. And then there's actually pinpoint rate, which we don't talk about here because nobody actually used that. They may have some use, but I guess it's rather pointless to actually have that since you have both speed and critical rate, which is a much better option compared to pinpoint rate. And next we have defensive plugins. On the other hand, it helps your Digimon survive attack and it make them last longer in combat. Like offensive plugins, defensive plugins also have their secondary stats. Those are usually HP or block rate, which I have right here, HP or block. Both are actually really good. There's also counter rate, but counterpoint is HP and block is usually preferred over that. And finally, we have special plugins that can provide both offensive and defensive stats to your Digimon and even give resistance to status ailment. So it says here, unlock a maximum bond when awakened to the limit. Okay, so upon reaching 99 bond with your Digimon, the 6th slot will actually unlock, which is something like this. There are a variety of plugins for special. So right here I equip it with critical rate, and this one is actually for speed, and then it gives you counter rate. You can actually equip with a lot of other stuff. Okay, notably the death team or purple team special plugins usually have speed with it, comparing with, okay, I don't really have a good example because I only put on death plugins. So anyway, the rest, they have their own special stats. Like for example, the brave team, they have power. The blue team, they have tech. And then the green team, they have HP or something like that. And then yellow team, they have defensive, which is actually we can actually go to the summon page to take a look. So basically, each of the teams, they have their respective stats. So for example, brave team, like I mentioned, they have power. And then tech team, they usually go with tech. Okay, calm, blue team. Okay, so death team, as I mentioned, they are specialized in speed for some reason. And then tenacious, they are equipped with more defense with whatever they equip. Look at it here, it's always defense and defense. Okay, and devoted, yep, they are more HP. Okay, so this is like their specialty in their own houses or own teams. Okay, next I want to cover on experience point, which okay, so you can see right here when powering up certain plugins. Okay, so example, I want to power up this Alphamon's power plugin, which comes with also speed. So when you want to upgrade your plugins, you go over here. Usually we just click select recommended. Okay, so you notice that this is 100 points, whereas 50, and then it scales accordingly. You look at this orange text, this is actually double XP. All the 1-star bronze plugins actually have a base XP of 50 points, but if it matches the same similar type of plugin, like example, like this is a power plugin, which is the offensive one. If you equip it with offensive one, it will give you double the XP. It goes the same if you want to equip a defensive plugin, and then you click on any defensive plugin. This is a defense HP. And then you see the difference here. All the defensive plugin becomes orange, which is double XP, whereas the offensive one becomes back to 50 points. Okay, so when leveling up special plugins, for example this, they will actually give you 2 times the EXP. So special plugins, bronze actually has a base XP of 150. Okay, moving on, there are actually rarities for plugins as well. So for example, okay, I'm sorted by rarity. Okay, so example, you can see right here, there are rainbows. These are actually target plugins. Okay, so from the weakest, that the usual one we see, the bronze, these are usually used as folder. And then we have silver plugins, and of course gold plugins, and finally the rainbow plugins, which is often called target plugin, which is actually the strongest. So example, you can see the stats here, they actually give a lot more than the usual. Okay, so to explain what target plugins are, so for example, I have not a good one. Okay, Alphamon. Okay, so let's take Alphamon for example. Alphamon's target plugin gives him 700 power and 24 speed, but if you remove it and put it on another brave team, so it actually goes a lot down to 196 power and 12 speed, which is less than half of what the power if it's equipped on Alphamon. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it back. So Harrismon has 300 power and 500 HP. Okay, so putting it back to Alphamon, you can tell that this is actually, okay, so this is Wargreymmon's target plugin. He gives Alphamon 196 power and 15% critical rate. But if he equip his own plugin, then it gives a lot more stats. Okay, so this is why target plugins are often really strong. Kind of OP, broken, I don't know how you want to call it. So I have not actually maxed this, which I should. I recently obtained quite a number of plugins which I have to work on. If equipped by a non-target Digimon, then you actually get the silver plugin stats. They will actually have the same stats as silver plugins. So generally, they are very good to have even if they are not used on targeted Digimon. Well, unless you have gold plugin or their own target plugin that is. So who uses what plugins? This depends entirely on the team and what type of Digimon you are using it with. So for example, you are using All Force in PvP, then you might want to consider putting more speed type plugins. But if you don't care much about going first or using All Force, then you can give more critical chance or resistance. As I mentioned, you have to depend on what type of stats you actually want in your team. So for example, Gaomon, I gave him quite a bit of crit rate here, okay, but I don't really have enough. And I want more speed, I want more crit, you know, it's kind of like a mixed bag, you know, mix and match kind of thing. But in the future, there are Digimon that actually nullifies crit, but for now, it's not really an issue. So I'm going, you know, with more crit rate. As for defense, okay, both HP and block are actually really good options. You can actually put into consideration that block half the damage taken, but there are also Digimon that ignores defense, for example, Genkumon. Finally, status effects used to be a big problem in PvP, but now with Digimon like Ophanimon that can remove status effect, or some Digimon that can even prevent status effects for X number of turns, it isn't really that bad anymore. Okay, so where to get plugins? There are in fact a lot of places that you can get plugins from. So straight away you can go to the gacha. Using rubies, you can get those sweet plugins. This is actually if you have spare rubies or if your team is kind of stuck or capped at stats with what they are currently having. So for example, you want to have, you know, like some gold plugins, you know, maybe from Brave team, you know, you can actually equip this. So something like that is really ideal, like, you know, with crit rate, with power, which really increases the offensive capability of the Digimon, or goes the same with tag. This was really ideal back when we had speed meta, Actually, currently we are going back to speed meta because of all force. So speed is really important now. So pulling on Death plugin and using Death Digimon as your speed batteries, they actually makes a lot of sense. I have not actually gotten a crit speed go plugin after like I don't know how many pulls. And finally, we have social point plugin, which I have a lot of it right here. I've already done quite a number of pulls. So the wonderful thing about social point plugin is actually they give you a very small chance to get silver plugins, which otherwise the points can be used to fill up your stamina as well. I highly recommend that you use social plugin, especially when starting out, because it can help you a lot in equipping your team with plugin and also using those plugins as fodder to level up your plugins. Or simply you can use the social points to refill your Digimon to get even more fodder, since we actually have a number of plugins that you can buy from the shop, which I will cover next. Okay, so the next place you can actually get your plugins is actually in story mode. Okay, they only have bronze plugins, so they are usually used as folders. Okay, I don't know why, but the game hangs, so I'm gonna restart now. Okay, so the next place to get plugins are actually story stages. They only give you bronze plugins, so if you're actually starting out with 0 plugins, you can actually use the bronze one first, which I actually did that in the beginning. Otherwise, this stage is actually the place to farm for fodder and food for your Digimon. Okay, go to stage 4 and then number 6. Okay, so right here you can see 1, 2, 3 of them is actually plugin. So you get offensive, power plugin, tech plugin, and also your defense plugin. And with no waste, you can get this onigiri, which is good for I think death kind of Digimon or something like that. And then strawberries. You will get a ton of strawberries farming 4-6. People used to recommend 4-7, but I don't see a need to have like so many of these. I used to farm 4-7 as well. You will come to a point that you don't need that many of these focus data too, and then you will switch back to 4-6, which you always need food. So 4-6 it is. So it depends on what you really need. So I highly recommend 4-6. And the next place to actually get plugins are actually from all these events that we are having right now. So for example, let's go to challenges. So for our current event, which is SDQ, Spotlight Digimon Challenge, they actually give a bunch of plugins right here. Look at that. So in this challenge, they will give you Machindramon plugins, which is really nice. Okay, so normally with target plugin. Okay, so they will act as silver plugins, which you can use for your Brave Digimon, which is really awesome. I can't really go back to the previous stuff. Oh, but I already have all those plugins. So anyway, as mentioned, you can get plugins from all these quests and challenges. Okay, so our current event actually give plugin for Calm Wargreymon. This is the one right here, which is tech crit, which is really nice. Some might actually prefer it to be tech speed, you know. Speed matter. You can go first, you might survive first, you might kill first, you know, things like that. And as mentioned, also Machindramon plugin. Where is it? Do I have it? Okay, I do have one Machindramon defense plugin right here also. Okay, so next I want to clarify target plugins. So for example, I have Calm Wargreymon plugins right here. They can be used for any Calm type Digimon, the blue team Digimon, but even though it's Wargreymon, you cannot actually equip this on the red Wargreymon. Okay, I'm gonna show you next. Even though the red Wargreymon actually has his own target plugins, which is this one, but if you scroll, you can never find the Palm or blue target plugins for Wargreymon, because that is, you know, blue as well. Okay, that might be a little bit confusing, but feel free to ask me about that in the comments below. Next, I'm gonna talk about the shop. Okay, this is a really good place to get really nice plugins. Okay, so from time to time, they actually give you some packs to buy in the shop, which is right here. I don't really have a good example here, but for event shop, which is right here, Valentine's Day Metal Exchange, you can actually buy some stones and also plugins here. This is actually for Vitramon, which I could just get the plugins, you know, can use as silver plugins for your other Digimon. Okay, so you can actually use your event currency, event medals, and then we have BP medal, which is right here after it loads. Okay, so this is for Sakuyamon. You can actually exchange it for all these. Lotusmon, Metasidramon, Ophanimon, which I'm not using now, but it's really great to actually just grab them. I actually have a limited of BP right now since I bought quite a number of medals so far. So don't waste your BP and, you know, save up to buy all these really nice plugins. And then also there's CB medals. The CB medal, I don't think you actually get plugins from here, but you can actually buy eggs here. Okay, so this actually for manga. So sometimes they actually make you buy, like a packs, it's like plug-in packs or whatsoever with your rubies. They usually cost 200 rubies, which is quite a lot, but they are definitely worth it. So for example, Alphamon, they actually have that kind of packs. So finally, there's a plug-in Vortex, which we don't have that in global yet, so we don't talk about it. But as the name suggests, it's probably a place you farm for plugins, like how we farm for our workout materials. Okay, so how to use plugins? Okay, actually it's more like how to power them up. I actually talked about it earlier in the video, but let me just emphasize it. So for example, attack plugins, okay, very important. When upgrading, use the same type of plugins, okay? So when I first started, I didn't actually notice using the same type of plugin to upgrade your plugins actually give you 2 times the XP, even though it's so obvious, but yeah, it was like a couple of days mistake. So keep that in mind when leveling up your folder. Okay, offensive plugins like power tag to upgrade offensive plugins like power tag, okay, and defensive plugins, use defensive plugins to upgrade. So example, this is a offensive one, you use offensive one to upgrade. It give you double the XP, 100 points instead of 50. To emphasize this point, which is really important, so you want to power up your defense HP, use your defense HP to power them up instead of this one. Unless you need that 50 points, then you can just use this. Also, another point to note that you actually get more offensive plugins than defensive simply because power and tech has their own drop rate. So basically you get 2 times more offensive plugins than defensive one. So in the pool, you get power, tech, and defense. So you get 2 times more offensive than the defensive one. Also, tech power plugins give 2 times XP to each other despite being different plugins. So you probably already noticed, okay, so this is a power type, but you can actually use tech type. It also gives you double the XP, which is really neat. And finally, I believe I covered most of which I'm aware of. I have this feeling I may have missed out a thing or two. So let me know in the comments below if I really did miss out on anything. Hopefully not, okay? I hope this video is valuable for you. It takes quite a long time to actually, compile all this information and put it in an orderly form. Kind of messy usually. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope I helped you learn something today. Subscribe for more Digimon ReArise content. Like this video if you learned something, and even if you did not, comment if you need another guide, and I'll see if this is a type of content still needed these days based on the views. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.